Hello everyone and welcome back to another Black Desert video. So today I wanted to talk about grind spots for silver. Now I know I've done a lot of videos of this, but today I want to talk about it and break it down from a perspective of monster type. Now some people have been asking me, which one should I get if you're on a budget, whether you're trying to get like all out attack, Kamasylvian, or Demihumans, humans. And I want to talk about some of the notable grind spots for each of the monster types. So if you're on a budget, what should you get first, what your AP is, and what I think you should do. So I think this one's going to be unique. Eventually, the goal is to have all of them, like all Kamasylvian, Demi-Human, and humans. But, you know, I think the two notable ones are Demi-Human and Kamasylvians. That's why they have 3 different harmonies for these. So, you know, I think that's important. So, with that said, I made a list of some notable spots, in my opinion. Keep in mind that I can grind every spot, but not everyone else can. And yeah, so let's talk about this in the Monster Zone area. We'll talk about each of them, what kind of, you know, loot some of the notable spots go to. And first of all, the list is a little bit shorter when it comes to Kamasylvian types. Simply there's just less spots than like Demihumans and everything. But number 1 would be Olins, which is down in the Odalita area. So there's Olins regular, Dekia 1, or this is Dekia 1 and then Dekia 2. The gear difference from base Olins all the way to Dekia 2 is actually kind of high, and if you can have enough gear to grind Dekia 2, this is probably the number 1 spot, but it does have a lot of factors in it. Like, it's a party of 3 spots, so you have to find 2 other people who are also geared. So the reason why this spot is probably the most valuable is because, 1, it has the rich merchant ring. That is, you know, probably the thing that makes people grind at Olins in general. But also, these 2 new artifacts, there's only 2 spots that drop these artifacts as of right now, and it's from Dekia Ash Forest 2 and Dekia Olins 2. These are very strong artifacts. The more, I would say, probably on the PvP side of things, but it doesn't hurt to use it for whatever else. And then, of course, Deboreka earrings, and then Limbo stuff. But yeah, I would say Olins 2 is the number 1 spot, whether you're using Agris or not. It's very strong, but there's a lot of factors into it. So yeah, I guess while we're on Olins, is Dekia 1 and regular still good? I think that if you can't do Dekia 2 yet, the best one to do is probably base 1. If you are, you know, not as geared, simply because, you know, you can probably solo it technically, or you can just find a group that's easier, and you don't have to have a group of people who are like giga geared for that one. So yeah, with that said, if you're ring grinding, it's either 2 or base. You don't do 1. But I think overall, I think 2 is just straight up the best. Next, we are going to be talking about Turos. Now, there's a regular and then the Dekia version. The Dekia version is significantly better if you're going for your Fallen God, which is weird because the Embers of Despair, you get a lot of them from Dekia. With that said, by the time you have this kind of gear score, like over 710 plus, chances are you already have your Fallen God armor. So like you're just buying it to sell it. But in my limited testing of the spot, I think it's actually pretty solid, and you don't really even need Agris here. So once again, it's a party of 2 spot, so it's not as bad. But I wouldn't say grinding the regular one is worth it, but if you can grind the Dekia version, it's definitely very solid for the Kamasylvian spot. Now, next thing we're going to talk about is Thornwood. Thornwood normal is just a joke, but if you can do Dekia Thornwood, this is actually a very good spot. This is one of my favorites back in the day, back when ominous rings were like 300 mil each. The reason why is if you are at Dekia at Thornwood, these rings kind of drop like candy. The most I've had in 1 hour was 9. And even on an average hour, you still get like at least 2 of them, assuming you were grinding at normal clear speed and everything. So overall, the rate of forbidden limbo seals or forgotten limbo seals, the trash loot, and the rest of this, pretty solid. So this is definitely a notable spot. And the next one is Crypt of Resting Thoughts. So you're here for a few reasons. 1, the rich merchant ring piece. 2, for Deboreka belts, and probably limbo seals. So with that said, in my experience grinding here, getting the rich merchant ring piece actually didn't take that long. It took me like mid 20-ish hours to get it, which I think is good. And then Deboreka belt drop rates are actually not that bad. So if you ever grinded any other spot that has a Debo accessory, usually you get 1 every few hours. I feel like a Debo belt drops like at least once an hour here, assuming normal grind speed. And even if you don't get anything else, you're going there for multiple reasons. And so, yeah, I think Debos from Crypt of Resting Thoughts is a very solid spot. And, of course, limbo seals on the side are very good. Trash loot is everything else is decent. All right, so the next spot we are going to be talking about is... where is it? Down here. It is Gyfin. So, if you're looking for Forest Furies, Upper Gyfin is that. This isn't really a silver spot. It's just kind of like an notable honorary mention for Forest Furies. Underground Gyfin, still the best XP spot. And, you know, this is a very solid spot. Not so much for silver anymore, but it's still good for XP and people who are within like the 270, 280-ish, the 300 range. Very good spot. So even like if you're barely meeting the requirements, I think this is a decent spot and worth mentioning if you are using Kamasylvian type monster species damage. And the last one is 100% just kind of a honorary mention. So Polly's Forest. Chances are you have way more gear than you ever need to be here. You don't even need the Kamasylvian artifact or, you know, species damage to be here. You can do it on seasons in about like an hour. But Polly's Forest is just a solid one for, you know, beginners. All right, so that has been Kamasylvian type enemies, and let's move on to the next one. So let's talk about human damage next. There's only a few of them that are human type species damage. So we have Dekia Kadri. This one is actually a very solid spot. I think it's probably about 1 to 1.5 billion silver an hour. It kind of lowered a little bit because Debo rings are lowered, but on average you get decent amount of limbo seals and everything else here. So Kadri, definitely a good spot to grind if you're, you know, 300 plus, and it's a great way to burn Agris if you want to as well. So very easy spot. It's a tower one. You let the lantern go and then funnel everything towards you. The only thing you need to know is the difference between white and red. Like, that's about it. The next thing we are talking about is... where is it? Bloody Monastery. This one is an actually pretty interesting spot. This is more for the mid-tier geared players, simply because it's actually pretty decent. You get a bunch of shards for your cup accessories, and the lunars are not worth as much anymore. It was a lot better when they were 300 mil each, but you still get a bunch of Seed of the Voids and the Narc Lightnings, which you sell to the vendors for silver. And of course, the number of Crimson Bells is just kind of a fun event on the side where you just get more loot and everything. So yeah, honorary mention for human damage if you're within the area, and it's about, I would say, a bill an hour, maybe more if you get lucky. But the next one we're going to talk about is Giants. This spot, this is kind of low key, one of those things that is what's that word, you know, not not meta, but it's like sleeper kind of decent. So yeah, if you're going for crystallized despairs, always good. And everything else, probably about a bill an hour here. So if you have human damage, extra artifacts and everything, light stones, you can use it here. It's pretty decent. And with that said, those are the 3 human monster species damage spots that I'd recommend. All right, let's get into the main event. So we have Demihumans. This is probably the one that there's a lot of things for, and it's more, I would say, on the end game of everything. So number 1, let's talk about all this. Golden Pig Cave. This is probably the number 1 or number 2 next to Dekia 2 Olins. This makes the most silver. You don't use Agris for it. Even the non-fortunate cave, the difference is you only get Essence of Dawn, and here you get all the other colors as well for everything else. Yeah, Demi-Human. Chances are, I would say about 95% of people are not going to be able to hit the gear cap, even with your full buffs. You kind of have to be super geared to like have 1150 plus. So yeah, I'm not buffed, so I can hit it, but I'm also more geared than the average person. So I would say most people aren't. If you don't, use all-out attack. If you are over it, you can use Demi-Human. You know what's funny? You know what's different? Fortunate Golden Pig Cave is 660 plus DP recommended, like 1150, and then 666 or 660. Regular is a little bit less AP, but more DP. Does it make sense? Nope. But you would think that regular should be a little bit less because it's not technically as good. If you can grind this spot regardless, the damage output is irrelevant. What you want to do is clear faster. So it's weird to me how the normal Golden Pig Cave requires more DP than Fortunate. For less rewards, makes 0 sense, but either one, they're still very decent. So I'd recommend going in during Fortunate hours just because it is technically better. But even if you're just grinding here, because you do need essences, which actually on the NA market do sit on the market now, so you can just buy them. But if you're one of those people that like grinding it out yourself, this is also decent. All right, the next spot I want to talk about, a lot of these are in the Ulakita area. Dark Seekers. This is probably one of the most grinded spots for endgame players next to, the things I've mentioned before. Dark Seekers is just a spot that is very chill. Sometimes if you grind there at nighttime and you get hit by 2 of the swings, it kind of gets sketch, but for the most part, grinding during daytime, very chill, no big deal. So yeah, I have a lot of hours in here. You need this for the Ator shoes. You actually do get a bunch of essences, so if you're trying to build stacks for your enhancing, you get a bunch of those. Kabuas are not common at all, but like I've gotten 1 flame before I've gotten 1 Kabua at the updated Dark Seekers, and I've gotten multiple origins before the Kabua, so just keep that in mind. And I don't know how many, I wish it told you how many kills you had to the next title, but it doesn't. Otherwise I would be able to tell you that. But either way, easy chill spot, 2 bill an hour plus, very easy. The next spot I want to talk about is what is on this list. I guess while we're here, Tungrad Ruins. Tungrad kind of fell off a little bit after the changes, but like if you're 320 plus, chances are you could grind Dark Seekers. It's significantly better than Tungrad. However, you need Tungrad for the telescope piece, and this one does not have the telescope piece. In my opinion, so I made a video of this a while ago about going for the upgraded telescope. This is 100%, probably next to the Rich Merchant Ring, the most useful treasure item worth going for. It allows you to teleport to someone else. The compass is like, you're the Uber, you bring everyone towards you. Telescope is you to them, which is, I use this more than I use the compass. So yeah, with that said, Tungrad, it's not bad, but the real reason you're here like is for the telescope piece. Otherwise, if you're here for origins and essences, you might as well grind Dark Seekers, but it's still not bad. The next spot that I wanted to talk about is, where is it? Troll. I think this is it. Yeah, Quint Hill. This spot, low key, is kind of good. Like, you make a lot of silver off trash loot alone. You don't really get too much of the other things. Crystallized despairs do stack up, and that's actually really nice. And then the trash loot just sells for a lot. So you're not really getting too much of the other ones. I think I've gotten like 2 distos in maybe like 40, 50 hours, but you do get a lot of crystallized despairs and trash loot. So yeah, if you just want straight silver that's easy to sell without having to list it on the market, this spot is very good and is demi-human. Next spot I want to talk about is Dechia Crescents. I heard this one was kind of bugged a while back, and you know, like when the things get buffed by what is the like statue thingy, and it was one-shotting people. I haven't tested it since then, but according to Garmoth and other people, it's still very solid. So if you're in here, I would say Dechia Crescents and Dechia Cadres are very similar. The difference is how much Agris you're using. So if you grind for longer periods of time, I believe that Cadre is slightly better. But if you're grinding 1 hour at a time, you make a little bit more silver, but use slightly more Agris. But either way, these are very competitive with each other. Also, they are 2 different species types, so human versus demi. So I think most people would try Cadres a little bit more, but I think Crescents is very similar and competitive with the same things of like 1 to 1.5 billion silver an hour. So keep that in mind. The next thing I want to talk about is, well, I guess the last one that's notable is one for the mid-tier players. So let me see. Elvia Orcs. This bot is just straight silver. It's less exciting simply because you know how when people grind, they're looking for the rare item drop, like whether it's an accessory or, you know, anything else. This one doesn't have any. It just gives straight silver and stuff you vendor to the NPC. But I have probably a lot of hours in here, maybe around 500-700 hours total back in the day. And yeah, if you're in this area of AP and you have Kabuas, which I think actually lines up because this is your next gear upgrade within 260 to 280 AP, you probably have Demihumans or some sort of other artifacts combo setup. Yeah, this is a very good spot. So with that said, this one is still decent. Now, with that said, those are all the things I wanted to talk about for every spot, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Everything else, there's a lot more spots that I think are good, and you could watch the full video for everything else. But some of those don't have monster types, and if you don't know what to do and you're grinding a spot without a monster type, just go all out attack. Vicious Shadows is also a good one for a budget, but realistically you should be able to get strikes now. 2 strike crystals, they sit on the market, at least here on NA, so it's not really much of an excuse to not be able to get these anymore. But back in the day, Vicious Shadows, Death Blow were good. But nowadays, non-species, all out attack. Species, a demi-human. And human, I wouldn't say it's really worth investing into. You can have them for that, but realistically, humans, you'd probably use all out attack still. So the 2 important ones, Kamasylvian and Demihumans. If you want the human things, it's really more for PvP. But with that said, that's about it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I will see you tomorrow. Peace.